And so we like to set up in high occupancy areas
Of
and
course.
then high nightly rate areas, because that's where you make the most money. If you go and set up an Airbnb in, I don't know, Dawenya or something, you sleep in your thing. No one will come because it's too far away.
Oftentimes, many people in the diaspora wish to go back home at some point, or at least they have some dream of returning to their home countries. So they wish to do some sort of business or invest back home. We hear too many scary stories of people who have been burned trying to, get into this, business space or, whatnot. And they lose their money either due to, dishonest, human capital or, just the way of doing business back home isn't favorable, particularly when you are in the West. And so today, it gives me a lot of pleasure, and a rare privilege, of course, to have somebody who is, lived in the West, gone back to, Africa, Ghana to be more precise, and done business, and it's quite succeeding at it. And so I wish, he'll come share his experiences with us for us all to learn. And I hope you enjoy this conversation with Isaac Sesi. Sesi, welcome to Diaspora Careers and Investments. On this channel, we speak all concerning personal finance. So yeah, it's a privilege to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Could you tell our audience a bit about yourself, and then we can get into the day's conversation.
So my name is Isaac Sesi. I am an entrepreneur. I'm an engineer, and I run a startup called Sesi Technologies that develops technology solutions for farmers and businesses in the agri value chain to help them reduce losses, increase productivity, and maximize their profits. So my company has quite a number of hardware, software, technologies that are designed, developed, and manufactured in-house that is serving the Ghanaian farming community. We also provide a suite of post-harvest management services to farmers and other people within the agri value chain. So that is like my main job. However, outside of my regular job and the startup which I run, I also have other business interests in real estate, in farming, in providing digital consultancy and the likes. As far as education is concerned, my undergraduate degree is in electrical and electronic engineering from KNUST in Ghana. And then my master's is in business creation from the University of Utah. And I've been around the block, so I have quite a varied experience when it comes to living and working in different countries, both in Africa and in the West.
I saw that recently you started a restaurant business in KNEST.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, how is that going?
Well, it's going surprisingly well, especially given that feedback from my friends who are in the restaurant business, especially in Accra. They say that it's a tough space to be in. For us, things have gone surprisingly well. So I guess maybe we are just lucky. Yeah, but so far so good.
Yeah, no, congratulations on that. It's really inspiring to read, the sort of things you share on your, on your Facebook. For those of you who do not follow Sesi, he's one of the guys you really want to follow on Facebook. And while at it, I really appreciate it if you can, subscribe to this channel so that we reach a lot more people. And I think it's really about your real estate, business that I want us to speak about, because as I said earlier on, many people in the West want to invest back home, and yet they get burned, along the line. Um, what has been your experience with the real estate so far? What sort of things are you into as far as real estate is concerned?
Yeah, so well, my experience in real estate has been mainly within the short-term rental space, specifically Airbnb. Basically, figuring out how to build, set up a successful Airbnb business in Ghana, and then exploring all of the other opportunities that come with it. I live around East Legon and in Ghana, and in this neighborhood, there are lots of really nice places, and it just occurred to me that you could actually make money renting these places and subletting them as short-term rental through Airbnb. So between then and now, it had been, I mean, for like a couple of years, so I don't work alone. I work with a couple of friends. We experimented with the idea. We tried it and we figured out what works, what doesn't work, and we have been able to build a growing portfolio of short-term rental spaces that are doing very well. We are always like our listings are always on the first page of Airbnb,
Mm,
and business is good. But yeah, it's been quite a journey of discovering this opportunity
mm,
and
mm.
actually exploring and building a business out of it.
I wonder, how many properties do you have in your portfolio? Let's start with that.
Currently, we have about 14
Whoa,
and growing. Yes.
whoa.
Yeah.
Who
So,
owns these properties here?
I mean, your typical, so it's a varied group of people. You have your typical mother that has lived in the UK or the US and acquired some wealth and come to Ghana and built.
Mm,
You also have other people that are just based out of other countries, high net worth individuals that want to invest in real estate, and so they would build places here. And then you also have your regular working class people who maybe a bit upper class people who have
mm,
properties, multiple properties that they are not using and
mm,
want to be able to earn money out of it. So
mm,
basically, yeah, those are like the typical people that would own the kind of properties that we currently use
mm.
for our Airbnb business.
I know I've seen one of your properties, and I mean, to be fair to you, your properties are absolutely beautiful. I've seen the one in Trasaco, which is a
Mhm.
high-end area in Ghana.
Yeah.
So how do you approach these people to persuade them even to give you their property, to use as Airbnb?
So actually, it's interesting because when we started doing what we call rent arbitrage, which is
Mm,
that we would go find a nice place and rent. Of course, the landlord knows that this is what we intend to use it for, and they are
mm,
okay, which is
mm,
very important because
mm.
if you are renting a place with the intention of using it for Airbnb and the landlord doesn't know,
Of
you're going
course,
to run into trouble.
of
And
course.
so that has to be stated in the agreement. So we'd rent places, would furnish it, and then we will list them on Airbnb. And then bookings will start coming in, would make enough money, rent another place,
Mm,
and then keep building the portfolio that way. So with time, we had people that were staying in our spaces who
mm,
were like, "Oh, I like what you're doing. I
mm,
would also want to start an Airbnb business. Can you help me?" And
mm,
then we will help them set up an Airbnb. Or in the case of the Trasaco property, in fact, the owner of the property, his son came to stay in one of our spaces and loved the experience and wanted us to manage their property. So actually, they came to us. We didn't go to them.
wow.
So from there, people began to hear of us, and people began to approach us, and that has been the way we have grown our portfolio.
Nice. Let's talk numbers. In terms of the Trasaco property, for example, how much do you
Mhm.
list for a night?
Well, it depends. So my partners and I, we are tech people, right? So
Yeah.
we're always looking for ways to use technology to optimize things. And so
Mm,
we've done a lot of optimization. We have custom software and tools that we have built that
mm.
plug directly into Airbnb. System automatically prices, finds the optimum price that it thinks that will lead to
A booking.
bookings.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can set a base price and then
Mm,
our systems just take over and do the rest. When someone asks me how much do you charge per night, it's difficult to answer because it's
mm,
variable. We have spaces that one bedroom apartments um, that can go as low as $40 per night and as high as $120 per night, right?
yeah.
Depending on the time, the season, the traffic, the demand, and all of that. So it's definitely a huge range. But then typically on average, our one bedroom apartments would go on average $65 per night. Our two bedrooms would probably go around 100, $120 per night. So that is like ballpark figure. However, the actual price you see is
Of course.
variable and is
Of
determined
course.
by our systems.
Of course. No, I mean, you really sound like somebody who does Airbnb, because for anyone who's attempted Airbnb, you would know that the times you charge, the prices you charge will vary. Weekend prices could be different.
Mhm.
And when we've got a festival in Glasgow or Edinburgh, you adjust the prices based on the bookings and all of that. Let's talk
Mhm.
occupancy rates. What is the occupancy rate we are looking at in Accra?
Well, it depends. For us, we have really good occupancy rate because of all the things we have done to optimize our listings and
Mm,
set our pricing. And so we have occupancy rates on average 80% and above,
that's
right?
fantastic.
Which is yeah, which blows hotels out of the water, right?
Yeah,
And so there are times where we have bookings months in advance. I mean, we have had 100% occupancy rates. It's common for us to have 100% occupancy rates, but usually in the beginning, occupancy is low because
yeah,
you are
yeah.
trying to build that listing up and get people to know about it, get the Airbnb algorithm to pick it up and all of that. But after the second 10 months, we'll start averaging 75-80% occupancy rates.
Next question is for these, for your properties, which for some who are owners being abroad and all of that. How do they get their
Mhm.
money? So say I've got a property in East Legon. I'm thinking of giving it to you to manage among your portfolio. How do I get my money?
Mm.
What are the terms?
So we have a standard agreement that we will sign with the property owner,
Mm,
which will specify what we do, all of the work we're going to do, and then how much we're going to charge, right? So usually our standard terms are we take a certain percentage of the revenue that we generate for you, and that covers. It depends. There are some property owners who have their own cleaners and other
okay, okay,
people in place who would like manage the space. And so they
okay,
are coming to us to list their property and manage it and then drive traffic to that place. So
right.
the kind of rates and agreements we have with them is different from someone who is like, okay, take my property and manage it. Everything is on you, right? So usually we will charge a certain percentage. At the end of the month, we will present you with a report. You actually also become a co-host of
A
the
co-host, yeah,
the listings that you have given to us, and so you can see all of the bookings and all of that. So there's full total transparency in the system,
yeah,
in
yeah,
our system. At the end of the month, we give you a report which shows all of the bookings, the revenue we generated, and then what our cut is and what is due you, and then we send the what your payout is to your account within the first 7 days of the next month. So typically that's how it works. And our system is fully transparent, and we have the data to show you because we have our own systems that plug into Airbnb. So now there's trust that we are not trying to, you know,
I
cheat
think,
you.
yeah, I think for many diasporans, if I like to call them that, that is the real fear. But Airbnb is one of the few businesses I could actually recommend, because, I mean, if you're on Airbnb, you know it when your place is booked, you know it,
Mm-hmm,
when it's paid, you can even cut
mm-hmm,
out middlemen from it. The money comes directly to you, of course, and then you can work out the taxes and all of that. So I think
yeah.
Airbnb is one business I'm sort of, to an extent comfortable, recommending to people in the diaspora. However, of course, if you're not in Ghana, then people to manage the space, whether cleaners, ensuring that the guests did not, mess up the place and all of that. I guess speaking of guests, do you have insurance schemes? I know Airbnb has its own, air insurance to cover these things, but how does it work in Ghana? Do you have these insurance schemes also?
Yes, actually, the reason why for us, we take bookings only on Airbnb exclusively. And
Mm,
the reason why we do that is so that we are covered by Airbnb's insurance. However, we're currently in the process of working with an insurance company
right.
to also get coverage so that we can start taking bookings um, through other channels and still be covered. So I think that insurance is very, very important. For one mistake a lot of people who do Airbnb do is that they will take bookings from anywhere, and
Yeah,
then I've seen stories where people came, they trashed the place, and then
yeah,
there was no recourse because they didn't have insurance that covered the actions of uh, ca-
the
guests who book
guests.
outside
Yeah,
of Airbnb. And I
yeah.
think it's very important. So for us, while we're still in the process of figuring out another insurance outside of Airbnb. We just stick to Airbnb because yeah,
Yeah.
insurance coverage is pretty good.
Right. So I was good. One of the questions I was going to ask was that when you say Airbnb, do you mean the company
Mm.
itself, or it also, because when I was listing on Airbnb, I did exclusively Airbnb, but then people would also list on Booking.com, Verbo, and other platforms. Of course,
Mm.
you run a risk of double booking, and then somebody.
Yeah,
So when you say Airbnb, you mean strictly Airbnb, except that
yeah.
you're now considering
We mean strictly Airbnb, and the
right,
reason why most people list on all of those other places is because they feel like the more places I list, the
yeah,
higher the probability of my place being booked, which is true. However, for us, because we've been able to really optimize
yeah,
our listing on Airbnb and our occupancy rates are very high, there is very little benefit to listing on other places because all that does is that it puts you at the risk of double booking, which is
yeah.
not very pleasant
No,
for
it's not.
yourself and for the guests. And
No,
Airbnb doesn't like that.
at
And
all, at all.
yes, at the same time, you don't get the kind of insurance coverage that Airbnb will give you if people are
That's right.
coming into other platforms. And for us, just being at one place just makes it easier to manage things.
That's
And
right. That's right.
um, I would rather have 80% occupancy and a lot of peace of mind than trying to fill my rooms every
Yeah,
single day and have to deal with lots of challenges that I would rather avoid. So for people, it's because they've not really figured out how to really optimize for one
optimize it.
platform,
Yeah.
and that's why they're listing in multiple places so that they can increase their probability of getting bookings.
Yeah. I know you're a very busy man, so I'd not like to take more of your time. But as we come to the end of the conversation, really, one of the things I want us to speak about is whether there is seasonality, of course, as I would expect, but what are the best times and all of that. But for those watching this, if you're getting value in this, kindly let us know in the comments section and also subscribe to this channel so that we're able to reach a lot more people. I'll really appreciate it. So, Sesi,
Mm.
what is the season like? When is your harvest season for Airbnb in Ghana?
Well, yeah, so definitely there is definitely seasonality, and seasonality is a thing in the hospitality space.
That's right.
Definitely our biggest months are December, January, maybe a bit of February. And if there is any like activity, maybe there's a big concert or there is something happening. Also Easter as well. So let's
Mm,
say April and then December, uh January, maybe towards the end of November as well. So around those months, you can have revenue that's like as much as two times or 2.5 times what you would get on a normal month. And so those times are really good. You find that you are always fully booked and you can raise prices and still people are going to book. So yeah, that's seasonality. And so sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't work in your favor. But for
that's
us, even beyond the seasonality, we figured out how to keep occupancy very high. So at any point in time, we can predict to a good degree of certainty how much revenue each listing or each room is going to give us.
right. Would you then say that this is certainly more profitable than renting out your place to a long-term tenant in Ghana?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, like no two ways about that.
yeah,
Because there, because it's short-term rental, you can afford to charge higher per night
yeah.
than if you were giving it out for the long term. I guess the thing with long term is the fact that you are kind of like guaranteed the money. With
Mm,
Airbnb, you have to put in the work to
mm.
increase occupancy rates to the point where you can um, you know
Get a
start
booking. Yeah,
making it some really good money.
yeah,
However, if you do it well, you can get three, four, five, six times as much as you would get from renting to just a long-term tenant. So it's definitely way, way, way more profitable.
absolutely. What are the challenges of doing Airbnb in Ghana?
First of all, a lot of people are getting into the Airbnb space.
Yeah,
I won't say that the market is getting saturated, but yeah, there are more people coming in, and also there's a lack of knowledge generally. A lot of people really
mm,
like the idea of, oh, I could get money from renting out my space, but really don't know how to do this. For
mm,
us, it's taken us a lot of years of experimenting, building tools, really being deliberate about testing
Mm,
things and figuring out what works in order
mm,
to get to where we are. And I dare say that we are probably the number one, or at least in the top three of Airbnb providers in Ghana, right?
yeah, yeah.
And it takes a while to really get there so that you can start seeing that profit. I think that another thing that is coming up also is that public utilities are getting very expensive in Ghana. Like electricity has gone up so many fold over the last 1 2 years, and
Mm,
when people come to your Airbnb, they will have the AC on all of the time,
mm,
and would probably leave the room with the AC on and all of that. And so, if you are not very particular about how to mitigate those things, it could eat into your profit margin. And they
mm,
are the usual, like having to deal with guests and the challenges that are associated with guests. Once
mm,
in a while, you get some really crazy guests, and you have to figure out how to deal with that. But
mm.
um, like every business has its own peculiar set of challenges. I don't
Yeah,
think that in the short term, I don't see anything that is an existential threat towards
yeah,
the
yeah.
viability of Airbnb in Ghana, unless
Mm.
maybe some regulation is passed uh, just overnight, which really hurts the business. But then outside of that, I don't see anything that poses an existential threat to us, the viability of Airbnb as a business in the short term.
I mean, we have had some challenges. Well, not challenges here in Scotland, and that is not even a UK-wide policy. Here in Scotland, you need a license in order to, to have an Airbnb. So I guess
Mm,
licensing scheme sometimes discourages people. But then it's
mm,
pushed some people out of business. But those who are able to
mm,
apply for licenses are rather
mm,
charging higher because now they will factor in that cost. So really, I think one of the advice I get when it comes to doing business is that look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you are addressing the fundamentals like food, shelter, transport, you will
There
always
always
be in business because somebody
business,
will
yeah.
need food, and it looks like that's what you are doing. You are providing
Mhm.
food and accommodation, and these sort of things are great. These are the so to be honest, I think you've got your head in the right space. um
Yeah,
Tell me
yeah.
about where are the locations of these properties of yours. I know we've mentioned Trasaco, but
Mhm.
where else do you have
Accra, our listings are around East Legon, Trasaco, Adjungano, um, Adenta, North Legon.
These are
Yeah,
high-end areas.
those are the areas. And you see, this is so because those are the places where people like to stay when
Mm,
they're in Ghana, right?
mm, mm,
Other places we could add to the list are like Cantonments,
mm.
Jolu, Airport, Usu. Those are, we have tools that tell us how much on average an Airbnb is costs in different areas. And so we like to set up in high occupancy areas
Of
and
course.
then high nightly rate areas, because that's where you make the most money. If you go and set up an Airbnb in, I don't know, Dawenya or something, you sleep in your thing. No one will come because it's
Mm.
too far away.
Um,
So we,
no, finish up. I think you
yeah,
are hitting the nail on the head.
yeah, so we set up in places that
Mm,
have, according to our data, have the highest potential, right? Even if people come to us and they're like, "Oh, I have a space here, can you set it up for me?" Oh, we come to your area, we look at the area, we look at our tools, and then they tell us whether this is a good place or not to set up an Airbnb, and then we decide whether or not we can take your property on, because we get paid when you make money, right? So if
that's
we
right.
don't think you can make money, we're
Mm,
not going to take it on because then we don't get paid, right? So there's an incentive for you and for us to make sure that we're going into a partnership that is mutually beneficial.
beneficial.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, we just focus on the high areas, and those are also places where people like neighborhoods that are nice and that are safe and
Oh, absolutely.
that are close to town. And safety is
Absolutely.
a really big factor, especially from people coming from the diaspora, both Africans living in the diaspora and coming back home, or foreigners that are coming into the country. They want safe places, so we try to make sure that our spaces are in safe neighborhoods, and those are like some of the areas or the popular areas in Accra that fits
Yeah.
that criteria.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think in one of my videos with Nanelle, we spoke about, the idea of people in the diaspora, investing, in real estate back home. And for many of these people, they would like to build their own spaces. I think one of the arguments we were making in that conversation was that while I'm, of course, I've limited resources and I'm not established yet, my focus will not be to build a place in some far off place in Accra. Because when I'm in Accra, I don't want to be in traffic for 2 hours or 3 hours before I get to the
Yeah.
city. I'd rather stay in an
Hmm.
Airbnb or a hotel. And I think
Hmm.
even for business purposes, it seems to make more
Hmm.
sense to be
Hmm.
established in these high end areas than
Hmm.
to go far off, because in the end, if you go far off, in your own words, you sleep in your
Hmm.
own thing. You see, in
Yeah.
particular, yeah, yeah. So anyway,
Mm.
wrapping up, if I was to, if I'm thinking of investing in the Airbnb space or thinking of getting a property in Accra, what would you
Mhm.
advise me about?
Yeah, I think that you have to know what you're going in for, what you want to. Like, there are different opportunities in real estate. There are opportunities for, depends on what you want to do. If you feel like, oh, I have $100,000 lying somewhere, I can buy a one-bedroom apartment, so that when I come to Ghana, I have a nice place to stay. There are real estate companies that would sell you an apartment for $100,000, and then you can convert that into an Airbnb and have it being managed to you for you.
Mm,
So while you're out of the country, your property is netting you 1,500, $2,000 a month.
that's
And
not bad.
yeah, like you're paying, you can pay off whatever mortgage you took to buy that, or how like whatever, wherever that money came from, you can pay it off in some years, right? And then you know that if I come to Accra, I have a really nice place to stay. That is
Mm,
that is one of the options you can have. If you also feel like, oh, I actually have enough money to build my space, then maybe you might want to consider building it as an as a building or an apartment that can be converted into short-term rental or Airbnb, such that if
mm,
you come,
mm,
if you
mm.
come, you both have a place to stay, but then in your absence, that property is also generating an income for you. Or
That's
if you
right.
feel like, okay, now, I mean, I'm just starting out, I have some maybe 5,000, $10,000 lying there, and I want to go into maybe rent arbitrage, so that I want to go find a place like a one-bedroom apartment in a very nice neighborhood to rent, and then turn it into a Airbnb,
Airbnb.
and then maybe make an extra $500 net per month, after I've taken out the cost of the rent and all of the fees and all of that stuff. Those are all options, but I think one of the things is to know who to make sure that you're speaking with the right people, because people are unscrupulous. You have to
Yeah,
do your due diligence and make sure that you are speaking with the right people, and people
yeah,
that have a good track record, people
yeah.
that other people can vouch for, such that
Absolutely.
the money is not going to go down the drain. Because yes, I mean, I've seen very, very horrible experiences that people have
Mm,
had trusting their own family members and all of
that's
that.
right.
So I think that first figure out what you want to do in terms of where you are financially, and what opportunities in real estate that you think make sense to you. And I've given a few, like you can buy an apartment from one of
Mm,
these developers, and then use it as Airbnbs, or you could build your own space. Obviously, you want to work with a trusted person who's going to, like, a contractor rather than a family
mm,
member,
mm,
uh, and who to put up a good space for you. Have someone
mm,
else supervise them, or if you're just starting out, you could do rent arbitrage. And so
yes.
that is those are all opportunities. So I mean, if you have a space, you feel like, oh, I want to uh turn into Airbnb, or you feel like I have some money, I want to rent a place and convert it into Airbnb, I think that you can talk to us, and then we can help you. But then those would just be my general advice for anyone who wants to go into the short-term rental
No,
business.
that's really useful. I mean, so are you happy that, in the description box I put your contact details, so that if people wanted to reach out to you, they could reach out to you, or if people have questions they want to ask, I'm sure you'll be in the comment section and be able to even respond to them.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You
Yeah,
can put my information there, and then
I
people can
will.
reach out to me. I'll also
I
be in
will.
the comment section responding
I
to
will.
comments.
Finally, if somebody says, I've got a place in Ajengano, or I've got a place in East Legon, I'm barely there. I'm only there, in Easter. but outside of these times, I would like you to manage it for me. Is that something you'd like to, take it up, or something you can consider?
Yeah, definitely something we can consider.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Once
Absolutely.
we share with
Mhm.
you how our process works, what we do, how much we charge, and you're happy with it, we can do business.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm not sure whether you've got any final words to say to the over 12,000 people who will be watching this this
Yeah.
video. Um,
Yeah. I guess my final words would be that there are actually opportunities. People think that Ghana is hard and um, there are no opportunities and everybody is trying to leave the country. And if you try to invest in Ghana, people are going to cheat you. Yeah, all of that is true. However, there are still a lot of opportunities. That is why you have Jay-Z has a house in Ghana, Rita Marley has a house in Ghana. Like
hmm,
all of these big people have places in Ghana, are making massive investments in Ghana. And look, I've been up there. I've been with these kind of people, and like liquidity makes you able to see opportunities that
that's right.
people living in the country do not. And so, if you feel like, um, look, I have some money and I'm looking for a place to grow my money, like Ghana is a fallow ground. Once you know the right people to work with and what you're doing, Ghana is a fallow ground and can really net you lots of help you grow your wealth, whether in real estate or in agriculture or whatever. Yeah. So people should see Ghana as a fallow ground, a land of opportunities, and don't run and not run away from investing in Ghana.
No, I mean that's really useful, and I mean that has changed my own thinking. Of course, in terms of how much we're looking at, investing, that will be different because, as
Hmm.
you rightly say, I mean, I guess sometimes for diasporans with little resources or people who look like me, to be honest, who may not even have whether their own homes here, sometimes they're in a rush to invest back home, and sometimes because of
Hmm.
that, they invest in very far off places. That becomes
Hmm.
a money pit, so to say,
Yeah.
because in the
Yeah.
end, you can't really net anything out of it. If I was to build a
Hmm.
place in my village, I'll be earning less than £100 per month, and unfortunately, that's not attractive enough for me to put in about 70 or 80,000 pounds and be earning less than 100 per month. That doesn't
Hmm.
work for me. So I guess
Hmm.
there's a lot of learning to take from this. That whether it's a
Yeah.
one bed flat in Accra in cantonments, if that's
Hmm.
going to net me $1,005 a month, of course that's what I'll
Hmm.
go for, and use the
Hmm.
proceeds to build the mansion in my village, and I can be
Yeah.
I'll build it close to
You
the
can,
chief palace,
you can
and then
be
I'll
you
build
can
a
be
story building.
the temporary chief when you can anytime you are in town.
I know, I know. I'll make sure I build a story building close to the chief palace, and I can look at what he's doing. Yeah. No, but thank you so much, Sesi. I don't take your
You're
time for
welcome.
granted at all, and I'm sure our people would respond positively to this. Thank you very much, everyone who has watched us, and Sesi will be in the comments to respond to your comments. Do remember to subscribe so that we can bring more good people like Sesi. I've enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure you also have. God bless, and
Yeah, I have. I have.